Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Modern Mystic Soul podcast. I'm your host, Therese Tucker, and today I have with me a very special Michelle Melendez of Blossom Inner Wellness. And Michelle is an award-winning and best-selling author of Ending Dieting Hell, How to Find Peace in Your Body and Release the Weight. She is also the founder of Pilates Cardio Camp or Cardio Boot Camp.
Mm-hmm. Cardio camp, but it is a boot
Cardio
camp.
camp. I'm so used to the word boot camp that just kind of slips right in, as well as Blossom Inner Wellness. And I'm so excited to have you here on the podcast with me today, Michelle.
Oh, thank you so much. Aloha, everyone from the big island of Hawaii. And Therese, thank you so much for inviting me. This is such a great topic.
Absolutely. Well, we got to connect recently, and we definitely bonded over the topic of emotional trauma and just the time period that we've gone through, and how there's an awareness, especially with all light workers, all healers, about our work coming kind of to the table right now of the work that we need to do to help us heal and release emotional trauma. And so I just wanted to hand that over to you and just talk to me about what you're seeing or what you've experienced when it comes to kind of just the deepening of the trauma that already existed.
Well, here's what I understand about trauma. So I first became a weight loss coach in 2007, and I've been teaching fitness since 1996, so a long time. And what I understood was after helping women lose weight and then they'd gain it back, was that it wasn't about food and exercise. It was actually about emotional trauma. And the energy of what that is in the body, the cells. We have 50 to 100 trillion cells in the body, and they actually become conditioned, and I even say the word addicted, that the cells actually become addicted to the emotional frequency, and all emotions are frequencies, to the emotional frequency of struggling with their weight. And that was when I was teaching. So coming forward to the present time, we have been, for the past 3 years, or 2 years, we have had a lot of trauma in society and in what has been going on, whether or not you believe the narrative or not, or have been vaccinated or not, it doesn't matter. You have gone through emotional trauma of grief, that things are never going back to the way they were. I remember my sister came over. She had lost her job because she was, or is now still, in the tourist industry here on the big island of Hawaii. And she was crying, and she was like, this was something she loved, super loved. And I just remember that trauma of that sadness and that grief. We've all had anger. So we go through these last 2 years of this anger and sadness, and not believing certain things, and being disconnected from our friends and family because that person believes this and this person believes that. That's trauma. And then it doesn't help. The media programs us for a separation, not unifying, not being in harmony. Right. They keep the stories alive of fear. Stay in fear, stay in separation. And so what happens is the cells of the body go, this feels normal. This trauma is what I know now. I go into a store, I see still people are still having a mask on their face. And I can tell you what I believe about that later if you want to. But I can just feel the fear from them, the fear of me standing too close. And that is trauma. And that is never, it's actually something that does not go away. It's actually something that you can integrate. You can actually integrate it into all that you are, and then it'll start to shift the frequency, but you'll always have that memory, but you can actually shift it. You can change it, but it's something that stays in the cells, and the cells of the body then start to create a personality, choices that you make about who you think you are in the world based on that, based on what we've been experiencing for 2 years.
Yeah, so resonant. And I'm so glad that we're bringing up this topic. It actually, yesterday I did the karma cards for the week, and what came up was about true healing. And what was so amazing about it is what you're saying matched what I got in a recent hypnosis session I performed. This energy came forward. It's a healer being came forward and said, people are playing at being healed. And when I asked it, like, what do you mean by that? And they were like, they think that if they heal the body, they've healed, and they haven't. You don't heal until you heal at the soul level. And
Yeah.
so the body will, like you said, revert back to the trauma being held at that
Yeah.
soul level. So this is
Yes.
just beautiful confirmation of what was being said. And I want to go back to that about being addicted to the trauma. Can we go into that a little bit more? Because I remember
Yeah.
hearing you talk about that the last time we
Mm.
were doing a group chat. And I was like, wow, no, that's resonating. That makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. And then I tried to sort of see it in my own life, because in my own life, I have struggled with weight or my physical identity, what it looks like. And when you said that, it really made me pause and go, okay, so like,
Mm.
where am I addicted to this? And I started to see it. So I want to hand it back to you so you can
Yeah.
talk about how you came to that conclusion and how you're seeing it play out in people.
Yeah. The cells are conscious. And so what happens is the cells, they vibrate. When you have a thought in your brain, it actually creates a peptide that goes, and the peptide goes down into every cell of your body. And again, you have 50 to 100 trillion cells. And so what happens is when you have a feeling that is super intense, like fear is the most intense feeling
Yeah.
that we can have. It's the frequency of fear is so strong. The only thing that is as strong as fear is love, and they're exactly on the opposite spectrums. So as far as frequency goes. So what happens is the cells, they have, in order for a peptide, an emotional frequency, to get into a cell, it has to have a receptor site, which is a bridge. And so the receptor site goes out of the cell and it connects to the peptide, the frequency of fear, let's say, because you're watching something that's super scary and, oh my gosh, everybody's going to be dying and whatever it is. So now what happens is the more you feel that feeling and the more you think about those thoughts that are fearful, whatever that frequency is. I used to be addicted to anger. So this could be any emotion. What
Mm.
happens is the cell starts to create another receptor site that connects to that frequency, and then another receptor site, another bridge. So the cell vibrates stronger and stronger and stronger at that frequency. This is the loop. This is where you had an argument with somebody, and then you keep playing the story over and over again in your head, and you're getting madder and madder and madder and more angry. That frequency is now becoming conditioned into the body. It actually feels bad to not think about it. It's hard not to think about it because now you've been playing that story in your head for 2 hours, 3 hours, 2 days, 3 weeks. All of a sudden, this is why sometimes people go, why are you still angry about that thing that happened 4 months ago? And it's because the story keeps playing over and over again, and the frequency feels, the cells have more receptor sites. Like I said, they keep getting more receptor sites for that frequency. So here's
Wow.
the thing that happens. The cells divide. When the cells divide, the new cell has the receptor sites that the old cell had. And what are the receptor sites for? The frequency you've been feeling the most. So now 2 years later, after all this, we all have fear. I've had more anger than fear. I've been frustrated because being a fitness and wellness professional for over 20 years, I know what is healthy for the body and what is not healthy for the body. And seeing what has been playing out has really angered me. And so my trauma is around the anger. And then going into stores and seeing children masked, that triggers me. So that's what happens. That's what I mean by addiction, because
Yeah.
now what happens is the body, this is so cool, the body, actually the cells actually send a signal to the brain. As soon as you wake up in the morning, the cells go, what is the frequency I'm used to having? I'm used to
Mm-hmm.
having fear. So what does my person need to think about for me to have the frequency of fear come down, the peptide of fear come down, so that I can get my fix of that frequency that I have all these receptor sites for, so it can connect really easily into the cell.
Yeah.
So what is that? So the body will talk to the brain talks to the body, back and forth. And the key is through the heart. The freedom is through your breath and through the heart. But that's the addiction part. The cells, actually, this is why the weight, what I got after training women for like 3 or 5 years of helping them lose weight, watching them yo-yo. And it was driving me crazy because I was like, it's not fair. It's not fair that this person pays me money as a weight loss coach, but yet they gain it back. That's not fair. That's like, you know, them going to a car, getting their car painted, and then 3 months later that's back to the old color again. That just not, this for me, that as a coach, I didn't feel that was fair. I was like, I'm missing something. And then when I got, oh my gosh, this is about their cells of who they are in their body. And your body is just a vessel for your soul. And it houses every single memory you've ever had in your entire life. Not only that, but it also houses the frequency of your lineage. So if you come from the Great Depression or from the Holocaust, those frequencies of fear and scarcity, that is in the cells of the body already when you're born, to start you off, to start your journey off. And you are meant to integrate those frequencies back into the light and love of the oneness that is everything and that you are. That's why you're here. That's why we're all here. We're all here to integrate the fear into the light and love of the oneness that we all are. And when we integrate it, which means integration means there's nothing wrong with this feeling. There's nothing bad. There's nothing to fix here. This is part of the emotional journey that every single human being feels. Everybody has felt fear. Everybody has felt anger. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing to fix. So you breathe into it with your breath. Your breath is the key. You breathe into it, acknowledge it, let yourself feel it, and your breath will expand the feeling, and then it'll start to expand it out. I actually did that this morning, walking up to the house, the main house. I was feeling frustration, and you know, I could go into a story about why and try and fix it, but I was like, no, I'm not. I just paused. I paused. That's the other thing. The present moment is also very key, and you're pausing, and I was just breathing, and I was like, Michelle, I always like to talk to myself, Michelle, this is a normal human feeling. There's nothing wrong with this feeling. There's nothing bad about it, and there's nothing to fix about it. And I just breathed it into the feeling, acknowledged it was there, and it started to dissipate. And that's where freedom comes in, because we're a slave to these emotional addictions, especially if you don't even realize we have them, because then what happens is these emotional addictions, they trigger thoughts that then create actions and create words that we say to ourselves and to other people. But when we take that feeling and we just breathe into it and we acknowledge it, we don't try to fix it, that's a big one, and we don't try to make it wrong, it's another big one. All that judgment just needs to you just be with it, and you just realize it's there. That's where freedom comes in. That's when the emotion starts to dissolve. Now you have choice. Now you can choose, what do I want? What do I really want? I want peace. I want freedom. I want unity. I want harmony. So breathing into that. And now my actions and my words come from what I choose, not what from my body has been emotionally conditioned to feeling because of the trauma of my experience in a human body and in this human life.
Wow. So what you're saying about, I'm going back to what you were talking about with the cells and the peptides getting released and the cells creating receptors to receive, and how they just create more and more, so that it's almost like, you know, we're expecting to get these peptides to come through, and it's like, I am sure it's a vicious circle, whereas we create more receptors, we create more peptides to be received. That's fascinating to hear about what's happening on a cellular level, because you know, working with people about around their concept, around their perspective is a lot of the work I do. So I understand what's going on in the mind, but it's
Yeah.
fascinating to hear how it shows up in the physical body and helps us lock into these frequencies, and why, and now we can understand a little better why these can be really difficult to shift, because
Oh,
it's literally like trying to detox your cells of
and
a
it's not about,
frequency.
and absolutely. And people think it's about willpower. It's not. It's not about willpower. It is actually, it's more about forgiveness, and it's more about surrendering to what is without trying to fix it. There's, we've been programmed as far as the media and the news and everything, in magazines and movies, to think there's something wrong with us if we don't look a certain way. To think this is the way we're supposed to be. I saw this movie last night. It was just horrible. And it was so exploiting women. And I was looking at it going, and I was laughing at the funny parts. And but I was like, wow, that is so exploiting of women. And just what is it called? Idiocracy or something like that. Anyway, it was kind of based on futuristic, that the whole and I believe that movies actually give us a lot of disclosure about what
Oh
is
yeah,
really
that's,
happening in the world.
yeah,
But this
absolutely.
one,
They do.
yeah, this one was about dumbing down society, completely dumbing down, and absolutely exploiting women, and like they were just a sex object. That was all they were in this futuristic movie. And I was like, parts of it were funny, but it was actually breaking my heart, because I was like, that's not what a woman is. That's not, the absolute sacredness of a female body,
Yeah.
and how sexuality is actually beautiful magic that we create with another sentient being, that can absolutely bring more love and peace and harmony into the world by having a really grounded um, partnership. And so that was my thought. But I was like, this is the trauma that we're integrating.
Right. So we can definitely acknowledge that we're surrounded with trauma, and trauma is created to try to control us. That's all part of that old paradigm, the matrix, if you will, about
Yeah,
keeping us sort of like repeating the same behavior. And I mean, if we want to take that to the spiritual level, where is it going on a spiritual level? That's what they call loosh. Our trauma is
yeah,
loosh, which is like food for negative entities. So they feed
yeah,
off of that.
yeah,
And if we look at we could spend time looking at the hierarchical structure of the negative energy. We just know, I mean, just for general purposes, the negative entities get a payout from our old paradigm, our matrix, and our trauma.
yeah,
So there's a reason for it to continually be created. However, that paradigm is crumbling, falling apart,
yeah,
dying, and very finite. And the more that we, as individuals, focus on healing ourselves at that deep cell level, and actually, like Michelle's been saying, really focus on integrating that
yeah,
trauma. It's again, if you guys listen to the karma cards that I did this week, it's all about, we have to go through the pain. We got to feel it to heal it. As soon as we
yeah,
feel it, we are healed of it. So that means we have to sit with it and be in that uncomfortable place, just like Michelle was suggesting, that we breathe through it, that we sit in it and look at it and let it expand. And this is how we start to break down the trauma that is blocking our beautiful essence, our powerful radiance that wants to come through. I refer to the trauma as like scar tissue around a beautiful diamond. It's like this, we just have to let ourselves feel it so that the scar tissue will open up and reveal what's underneath. And just going back again, because there was a few things that you said when you were talking about the way the cells work. I was like, oh my God, this finally explains why we have resentment and hold grudges. Like this explains what
yes,
that is.
yeah,
It's so,
yeah,
and why, some of us who are, it's like you can be a very loving person and hold a grudge. You can be a very, um, open and forgiving person and still hold resentment, especially if that resentment is sort of like doubling and tripling and quadrupling at a cellular level inside the body.
Yeah.
It's why it's like no matter how much you try to work on, let's say, a parental relationship that holds
Mm-hmm.
trauma, and you do the forgiveness, but then something comes up and it's like, here it is again, and back kind of at square one, having these
Yeah.
feelings and thoughts. It's because they're still sort of replicating inside
Yeah.
of
And
us.
also, yes, yes, absolutely. And also, you're making it wrong. You're making it wrong for you to feel that way. I shouldn't feel this way. I'm a spiritual person. I'm a kind
Right.
person. I'm their mother. I shouldn't feel this way. I should not feel this way is going to keep it going. Yeah, you
Mm,
should feel that way because it's in the body. It's just a feeling. It's a frequency. That's nothing wrong with frequencies. If
that
you hear music, is that, it's a frequency. That's all it is. It's just energy.
I love
It's
what you're
just,
saying here. So I should not feel that way. And I just said we have to feel it to heal it. So do you guys see how we're blocking the healing when we're like, I should not feel this? As soon as we're doing that to ourselves, we're literally, like what Michelle's pointing out, we're holding it static in the body.
yeah.
It can't go anywhere until we feel it.
Yes, yes. And and I made the mistake by saying it's about forgiveness because forgiveness means, again, you're making it wrong. You're not you're making it wrong, but you're making it something to fix. There's nothing to fix. You don't have to fix it. It's just a frequency. So if you just let it go and you're like, I'm feeling resentment for this person, and whatever's, this is something that I learned from a girlfriend of mine named Hope Johnson, and she does dialogues with Hope Johnson, just amazing dialogue, wisdom dialogues, as she calls them, wisdom talks. But she said, whatever's up, whatever's coming up in you, in the field, in your relationships, that's coming up to be healed. And I call it to be integrated back into the love and light of the oneness that we are. We came to have this human journey, which
Yes.
means we're going to have a human journey. And being in a human body means all kinds of things are going to happen. And we're going to have all kinds of emotions. And not one of them is bad. Not one of them is wrong. And not one of them needs to be fixed. It's just a frequency. So when you just hold that frequency and you're having this resentment towards someone, you just breathe into it. And that's the other thing too, is when you are trying to fix it, or you're making it wrong, or you have a story about yourself because of that, or about them, or whatever the story is, you shallow breathe. You're breathing up in your chest. You're
Yeah.
not breathing deep into your body. So when you pause and you go, this is a normal human feeling. I don't have to fix it. I don't have to make it right or wrong or good or bad. And you just breathe into it and you let it be. I'm feeling resentment toward this person. For whatever reason, this is coming up. In my experience, I'll share with you about Ho'oponopono because that'll blow your mind a little bit too. This is coming up in my experience for me to feel the integration of this frequency so I can find peace. Not for the other person, for I can have peace.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what I know is true about forgiveness and why we want to get to that point. I still need to feel it. We need to, there's a lot of
Yeah.
steps before forgiveness, but
Yes.
forgiveness is what actually breaks the cycle of karma. As soon as we have
Yes.
forgiven, even if it's, I forgive the situation for my own
Yes.
feeling.
Yes.
We can say that and absolutely break this cycle of karma.
And that's part of Ho'oponopono. So Ho'oponopono is a practice here in Hawaii that is, it's crazy. So when I first heard Ho'oponopono, I got really triggered, and here's why. Because Ho'oponopono means you say, I'm sorry to whatever happens to you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. And when I first heard that, I was like, but that person did something to me. Why am I sorry? So, but what I understand now is that it is about, I'm sorry that there is something inside of me that has not been integrated back into the wholeness of love and light and peace and harmony that I am, which I am part of oneness of all things. I'm sorry that there's something inside of me that is experiencing you as the bad person and making a story about that, having this experience. And please forgive me for not having integrated this piece that is causing this experience. I love you because I know that we are all one and you are me and I am you. Thank you for this experience so that I can now see what part of me needs to be integrated back into the wholeness of love, and I can have peace. And in so doing, you will have peace. And that is Ho'oponopono.
So beautiful, because in the law of one, they talk about, I mean, Hopo, I never can say that right. Say it again. Hopo,
Ho'oponopono.
Ho'oponopono.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh no.
You got it. You had it.
That expression is so beautiful because it definitely ties in with what the law of one talks about. It talks about the law is one. That's why it's the law of one. The law, the only law is oneness. Everything is interconnected. Everything is one. And they talk about the first distortion, and distortions in the law of one are where we are seeing things that are outside the law of one. So anytime you see like the sun and the moon, there's a distortion there that you're seeing two different planetary entities, as an example, right? Where I've distorted the truth. The truth is they're one, I see two, right? And so what I hear when you talk about that is like, I'm sorry, I distorted from the law of one. I'm sorry, I distorted from the oneness, and I started to see you as separate. And then I took it even further and I saw you as against me in some way. How could that's not the truth. The truth is we're one. And I love that statement, and how it, it allows us to recognize and acknowledge, accept, have compassion, right? And understanding, and ultimately forgiveness.
Oh my gosh, I love that you said that, because the Buddha says you, more than anyone in the entire universe, deserve your love and compassion. And when we do meditations, when I finish with a client, there's a meditation that I do, and only you really understand only you really, really get everything you've experienced in your life. No one really understands everything you've gone through in your entire life except for you. So you having compassion for this body, which houses all your memories. This body has allowed you to hug people, to wrap Christmas presents. These legs have walked miles in your lifetime. These feet have gotten into numerous shoes. Like, you've seen beautiful sunsets with these beautiful eyes. And so this body, you deserve your own compassion and your own understanding for all of the parts of you, your little girl, your little boy, all the way up to this present time and future time.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's amazing, because that's literally, every morning when I journal, I do I have a future self pep talk where I talk with my future self, and that's exactly what she said today. She was like, make sure that you're giving kindness to yourself. Make sure you're being kind to you. And when it comes to trauma, I mean, so first there's the trauma. This is where we get into some interesting aspects about, and I cannot remember who I'm quoting this from, but the quote is around, it might have been Martha Beck, I'm not sure, but the quote's around clean pain versus dirty pain. Somebody came up with this concept, and I cannot remember who that person is to give them credit, but clean pain and dirty pain are really interesting concepts. And when it comes to trauma, often the trauma is coming from the dirty pain. So the clean pain is the incident itself. For example, if you were to get in a car accident, the car accident, you getting hit, is the clean pain. That is, there's pain from the impact happening to you. The dirty pain is the story that you tell yourself. And the story might look like, that person is an asshole. They did this on purpose. They attacked me. Or I'll never get to drive this car again. It's never going to look this way again. And it's, I just paid it off. Or all the stuff that goes on in your mind that is from the catalyst, which is the clean pain, just the car accident, right? And so our trauma, it's interesting because it really is built on what we told ourselves that meant, what we are telling ourselves the other person's, if other people are involved, their motives towards us, right? We are literally having an entire movie in our head. It's like a made for TV movie about an incident. You know how when we're watching like movies about someone's life, you know that there is like aggrandizement, or they're overemphasizing or over dramatizing parts of it to make it more interesting, right? That's what movies do. We know it didn't play
Yeah.
out exactly this way, and we accept that when we watch a movie, that we're watching a fictional
Drama.
reenactment of a real moment, right? But what we haven't quite acknowledged, and when we're in our trauma, we don't really acknowledge it because we're not really present, but we're doing the same thing. We're making a
Yeah.
movie about
Story.
an incident. Exactly. The story that I tell myself is that this person had it out for me, that they're like, they wanted to attack me, when the truth is we don't even know the motivation half the time of the other person. We don't know their level of awareness, where they're coming from. We don't even know that they might not even have known they had done something. I mean, how this is like the story of most of us in our childhood, where a parent made an offhand comment because they were
Yeah.
distracted or busy and said something that we internalized about ourselves. We took it to mean I'm not enough, I'm not important, whatever it is. And we
Yeah.
build a personality around that trauma story.
Yeah. And that's also just part of being a human being. That's just part of the human journey. It's part of the experience. There's nothing bad about that or
Right.
wrong. It's
Right.
just what we came for. And what we came for is to, again, integrate these traumas back into the light and love of the oneness of unity and harmony that we are, because now is the time that things are changing. Our enslavement of these systems that have been keeping us from our true birthright of absolute abundance is breaking down, is ending. This time of enslavement is ending. And we
Yeah.
actually are going to be able to feel and experience the absolute true harmony, oneness, love, unity. You know, I keep looking to the right because I just have this just amazing view, and
Oh,
it just
beautiful.
it grabs me. And but I love it because the frequency of these plants, like walking on this farm that I'm on, and hearing the sounds of just the birds and feeling the grass under my feet and feeling the frequency of the energy and space that's around me, which I want to explain a little bit more about that. Uh, that is why we're here. You know, our light beings, our souls have come to have this normal human experience, go through all this really unpleasant experiences all of us have had.
Yeah.
All of us have had, but that's why we came. Our souls of light and love that only experienced light and love before we even came into this dense, heavy human experience said,
Yes.
yes, I'm going to go forth and I'm going to integrate. I'm going to be in that human body and experience being in a human body and all the things that come with that. And I'm going to integrate the denser frequencies, that's all they are, it's denser frequencies, back into the wholeness of love and light that I am. Now I get to see and actually experience the absolute abundance of wealth that is coming, for not just in monetary, but also in relationships, in absolute love of just joyness, like the friendship. You ever had a really good friend that you just absolutely adored them and you laughed with them? I have a twin, and she's was my best friend growing up, and we laughed until we cried. And I remember this one guy was like, what are you guys on and how do I get some? And we were just like, we never did any drugs or anything. We were just laughing about nothing. It was so much fun. But that's what's coming for us. That true earth is what we're coming. And then the other thing I wanted to share is that we as far as when I walk through the farm and I'm dropping in and I'm in the present moment, and I'm feeling the frequency that's around me. When I say that, this empty space is not empty. The empty space, like fish swimming through water, they don't know that there's water. This is a frequency field. This is a
Mm.
frequency field. And the
Yeah.
frequency, the geometric shape of this frequency is the flower of life. What's really cool about that is that in every single, so you have 50 to 100 trillion cells in your body. In every single cell, there are 100 trillion atoms. In every single atom, there's numerous protons depending on the element. And every proton in your body is enough information holographically to recreate the entire universe. And what that geometric shape is inside the protons of your body, inside the cell, atoms inside the cells, is the flower of life, geometric shape. That geometric shape, I actually tattooed it on my arm. That's what it looks like. It's the geometric shape of the flower of life. That's the seed of life. But it keeps going, keeps going, keeps going, connected to everything. This is why you can feel somebody when they walk into the room, and you can actually feel, okay, you don't even have to, like, especially a partner, somebody that you're in partnership, you feel their frequency, you know how they're feeling. Like if they're angry and they're in the other room, you can feel that because it's part of the grid, this empty space. You're connected to everything. This is why when we pray, when we meditate together, which I'd love to do at the end, that frequency goes out and emanates like the wave of an ocean, and it goes out to the whole entire planet, and it connects to everybody and everything.
Yeah. And a yes to the prayer meditation at the end. Absolutely. Cool. So many good things there. You're saying. I love that, when you talked about the fish aren't aware of the water, I was like, I mean, I think I've heard that before, but it struck me, and I was like, oh my God, we don't even know what container we're in. Like, we have no awareness of the containment field that we're in, because it's so, it is our life. Like, it's holding us, just like the water holds the fish. It's holding us. We wouldn't know what life would be like without it. I mean, yeah, that's a wild thought to really like sit with and absorb. And then I want to go back to what you're talking about regarding trauma and the fact that everyone's experienced trauma. We knew what we were getting into before we got here. And I love to go back to something that Dolores Cannon had lectured on, and she had talked about the fact that, in these sessions, many times the beings tell us, that, and when I say beings, I'm talking about people's higher self coming through. And I call it a being because it's so much more than just the person who is resting there. When they come through and they were like, look, this was hard and you knew it. And people were applauding you for the bravery and strength that you show, that you're willing to come down into a frequency in which you're going to be memory wiped, there's going to be confusion, and that it's dense, and that you're going to have to figure your way back out of it. And and going back to just like, why would we keep coming back to this? Why do we keep coming here? One of the things my team has talked about is, and I think I hold this from different lifetimes as a shaman, but it's soul retrieval. So in order for us to progress to higher levels, the soul has to be intact, right? So this is, why do we need soul retrieval, and what does that mean? Well, I like to say, imagine that when you were first conceptualized as a soul, you were like a beautiful, perfect mirror. There's this flawless mirror. And then through, whatever events that you went through, whether it was incarnating here or other denser planes, because there's more than just this one, there's other ones as well. We get dings, we get cracks, and sometimes a whole piece falls out. And then, of course, there is moments where we're literally, what's the word? Suddenly it's like segmenting ourselves off on purpose. I was talking about this the other day with a client, but it's, we don't just do this around trauma where we fracture and break a piece of ourselves. We actually fracture ourselves on purpose when we have a moment or a memory that is so potent and sweet and wonderful that you never want to leave it. Sometimes we break a piece of ourselves off and leave it in that time-space moment just so we can keep having it again and again. But we even have to collect those pieces. We have to bring all pieces of the mirror back together in order for us to be able to move into higher frequencies. And just, as we're talking, I'm thinking about, so we started talking about the whole COVID pandemic thing and how that was like mass trauma. But what I really realized as we're talking about it, And I remember feeling it. First, I was pissed off. I was very pissed off about that. We talked about that. Like I
Yeah,
was
I
just
was
like not,
so mad. Yeah.
I did not want to play that game at all. But after going through it, and that's kind of been my lesson during these last 3 years, is there's a lot of games I'm like, I don't want to play this game. And I'm like, they're like,
Yeah.
you're involved. You're here, so you have to be involved. And what I've learned is like, it's not what it looks like on the surface. So don't, it's like that was my reactivity to what I was seeing. And they were like, there's a bigger reason underneath it. And this,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
they're sharing with me is this, the stuff we're not feeling, this moment was sort of how would you describe it? Like a volcanic eruption of all the unhealed trauma that needs to be
Mm.
seen now. So it's like massive event to see it. Now you get to see it. Now you get to see all these
Yeah.
people in pain. You get to see yourself in pain, or where you're holding your pain and trauma. And that's the reason for it, was to bring it to the surface, right?
Yeah.
Because it's been suppressed or it's been denied for so long. And then this intense, like pressure cooker, that's the word for it. It's a
Yep.
pressure cooker
Pressure.
moment,
Yeah.
which allows it to all, like a pressure cooker, what it does, like I'm thinking about like resin. Sometimes I play with resin, but if you were to put resin in a pressure cooker, what it does is it draws the bubbles out of the resin, brings them to the surface, so the resin can be absolutely smooth and flawless when you take it out, when it's cured. And so it's kind of like that's what it's doing to us. It's
I
pulling all
agree.
these trauma bubbles up to the surface so you can see it and deal with it and take the steps that Michelle had talked about how do you integrate this? How do you realize that it's okay that you have it? Like, no, there was no plan before we got here that you would be unscathed. The plan is you would remember. That's all you needed to do, is just remember who you are and what you're really capable of, what this really is
Yeah.
about. And as it comes back up, and it comes up, it's just like the resin, we become clearer as
Yeah.
this trauma gets pulled to the surface. Now suddenly there's a clarity available to you by seeing it and dealing with it and integrating it, right? Like pop the bubble, right? Pop these bubbles. So you have this
Yeah.
beautiful clarity.
I love that. And that's so true, because my sister's been on island for 25 years. I never wanted to live here. I lived in California. I love California. And then all of a sudden I was like, there was this feeling. I was sitting on her lanai one time visiting, and I just felt this like, oh, maybe I could live here. And things happened where I moved here very easily. And I'll never forget, I was here for a year, got here January 2019, and then the demic happened. I don't like to say these words,
The
but this is going to go on YouTube, which that is a whole nother story. But I was like, oh, that's why I came. I knew. I was like, that's why I'm here, because I put on a health summit at one of the parks 2 weeks after no more than 10 people could congregate. We had 30 people, and I live streamed Peggy Hall and some other another doctor, Mary Rorert. We sat there for 2 hours, and I talked about how the regular flu in the islands of Hawaii, the regular flu has killed more people for every single year for 6 years than what was being feared about. And we talked about so many protocols. And so what happened was, long story short, the cops ended up coming, 15 cop cars, 22 officers. By the time they got there, there was 12, maybe 12 or 13 of us, mostly women. And I remember looking at, and they had the masks on their face, and none of us had masks on our face. And I remember looking at one of the cops going, I know you know this is wrong. You took an oath to defend and support the Constitution, and this is not okay. And they ended up grabbing the girl next to me. They grabbed 5 people, arrested them. Each one of them held their ground, that we are constitutionally free. We are free. This is not right. These mandates are not laws. 5 months after dealing with court cases, everything got dropped. Everything got dropped. So, and then, there was times when I actually took the police chief and made a complaint against him with the police commission, and because I went into a store unmasked. And I said, anyway, long story short, I remember walking into the police commission, and the police officer that had come to tell me I needed to wear a mask was there, and I never got arrested or anything. We had a conversation, went back and forth about rights. And, but I remember when he came, when I was at the store, he was big bad guy, big bad cop. And when I was at the police commission, his whole demeanor had changed, and we made eye contact. And I made sure that I looked at him in the eyes because I wanted him to know I'm not afraid of you. And his whole demeanor was changed. But that's the power we have. We are way more powerful than we think, and they know it. And it's time for us to know it, because we do not have to comply to these. We have, you know, it is called common law, the rule from God. We are free beings. And as long as we don't harm ourselves or other people, we can do what we want. That's what's coming. The freedom of that.
Yeah.
You know, this taxing system, all of this is enslavement. We don't have to pay. We don't have to do the things that they keep telling us we have to do. We don't. We do it because people comply because out of fear. And even in Nazi Germany, for the Nuremberg Code trials, one of the judges asked one of the soldiers or sergeants or whoever it was, you know, how did you get people to comply? How did you get people to do what you wanted them to do? And he said, if you get people afraid enough, they will walk themselves into their own gas chamber. And that is no more. That's why we came. That's no more.
Absolutely. Well, no, and that's the interesting thing is like we are so gosh, my brain's going to go into time. So time again, like this is a bigger concept, a quantum concept, but we're in a spiral. And one of the things that I got back in like the beginning of 2020 was that part of the healing that we do is, yes, ancestral. It comes through our own genetic line. And so as we're healing it in the body, but it's also time periods have to resolve and heal. And what was really interesting was like multiple time periods are compressing into this point in time. So we actually are resolving World War II, World War I. We're resolving even back to Atlantis, the flood, because what caused it was this ultimate corruption of morality and ethics is what caused the destruction in Atlantis. We were, you know, we had fallen so much from a higher ideal because during that period, Atlantis was on a descension cycle. They were going down the wheel. We're going up the wheel. But as we do this, we have to all karma resolves at the same time. It's very interesting and kind of weird, which is why you're seeing a repeat pattern in history. But what you're going to see and what we have seen this time is it will not resolve the same way because it's going to be very different. It's not going to be a type of mass extinction, you know, or a mass genocide. That's what they want you to believe because that would allow them to extend their own timeline. Remember, and I've talked about this before. You can hear it on my YouTube channel if it's new to you, but I've talked about the fact that the dark timeline, that's what I call it. Their timeline is a dark timeline. It is also matter-based, and that makes it finite. It has an end, an actual end, whereas the organic timeline, the higher timelines are infinite. They continue to evolve and expand because they're frequency-based. They're not a matter type thing. So their whole goal is not to do this forever because they know logistically they can't, but they can extend it. And part of it is getting us to do the same behavior, to comply, act the same way that we had done in the past, you know, the different groups did in the past. And so therefore extend this timeline. But what's happening is there is also so much solar energy coming in. There's so many frequency upgrades. The frequency has changed on this plane, and that's why this is a losing game for them, because it's changing people's consciousness. It's getting people aware, you know, just the way things are playing out just at a frequency level. It's expanding people's consciousness and their awareness, and this interconnectedness is so readily available. It's so easy to tap into now. And I remember seeing it years ago. I remember back in like 2012, 2013, looking at YouTube at the time was mostly like animal videos, you know, like there wasn't really, it was like a lot of cats and a lot of different things, but you'd see a lot of times all these videos that they'd show of animals of different species, like helping each other, comforting each other. And I remember seeing it there first, and I'm like, this is changing. Something is changing here. Something
Yeah.
is there's an awareness, a conscious awareness of others that wasn't as present before. And it just keeps expanding. It just keeps expanding. And I remember getting really excited when I saw that, because I was like, we're next. This is
Yeah.
going to shift over into humanity. And
Yeah.
it is. And that's the kind of amazing thing. It's like the more that they try to present something scary, like they're trying to present World War III now. They're trying to convince you
Well,
it's going
it
to
won't
happen.
happen.
It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
going to happen.
It'll look like it will.
Yeah.
It'll look like it will because they want us to be afraid,
Just
but
like
it's not
with
going to happen.
the plan, the other plan,
Yeah.
the C plan, they
Yeah.
convinced people of a lot of things. Some people are still convinced, and no
Yeah, they
judgment
are.
to people who believe that it's still, I understand that there's a lot to look at to say, no, this is happening. But there's also a lot of things that we also want to look at and consider that didn't
Yeah.
happen that would have if it were real. That's all I'm going to
Yeah.
put out there. So again, it's perspective, and your perspective is powerful. And that's one of the
Yes.
things I've been saying the whole time is I'm not here to make anyone wrong. I'm not here to tell you your perspective is wrong. All I'm offering you is that there's more than one
Yeah.
perspective to see this from. And some perspectives are much more empowering. They are much more, they give you a sense of expansion. They give you a real sense of just how powerful you are, where others are they are designed to
Exactly.
take all of that away, right? They're
Absolutely.
designed to make you feel weak and inferior. And what can I do? It's just me. And I'm just this weak little human. It's like, no, no, you're not.
Yep.
No, you're
Yeah.
not. You are so much more.
That's 100% correct. Is they want us to feel like we are super small and that we are not powerful. And
Absolutely.
that's not who we are. That is absolutely not who we are.
But
It's
here's the
exactly
joke.
inverted.
And the joke they don't want you in on, especially if you're buying what they're selling. The joke they don't want you in on is they actually need you to create it for them. None of this works
Yes.
unless we
Yes.
create it for them. And they
Yes.
know this, and they don't want us to be aware of that. So again, this is another one I recently did. We're talking about the observer effect. Whatever we're giving our attention to, we are giving form to. We're helping it grow and expand.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's why in movies, so it was really interesting. I remember reading this somewhere, and it was like they were talking about the fact that all movie materials, all scripts and everything goes through the Pentagon, which seems odd, but it's because that's where all that like DARPA and all. I'm going to get us censored on YouTube. Who knows? But they have programs that it's their social engineering programs. This is also where social media comes from. All of this is through.
Yeah.
It's not organic and just like, hey, some teenager figured out an algorithm. It's very much more constructed and more thought out than that. But what they had said is like you're allowed to put so much programming into a film or a television show that is for an agenda, but it actually has to be presented with the opposite. It cannot be pure propaganda. It actually has to have a certain amount of the truth in it. And so this is where it's really weird, because you can get a movie that's telling you the propaganda and the truth at the same time. Which is wild when you think about it. I remember, I don't know if you ever saw this movie, V for Vendetta.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that? I remember seeing that years ago. And that's now, it's like, I don't remember when that came out. It's like 2006, 2007, maybe, when that came out. And I remember seeing that, and there's just a couple of films in my life where I'm like, holy shit, that's true. This is true. And that movie is about the pandemic. It is literally showing you how they do it and what they were doing. And I remember seeing that and going, crap, no, I don't want that. But here's what they're also showing you, that they really want, like, try to gloss over, underplay, is like, how did it resolve? It resolved when all the people got together and they said no more. And they all flood the streets, right? And they've all They're all there watching the old paradigm structure burn to the ground as they've left their, because they were under like a type of curfew. They couldn't leave. And everybody comes out and they're watching the old structure burn. And that's how it resolves. There's the truth. The truth is we are more powerful than they ever want you to know.
Yeah.
And also the they that we talk about, they're the ones who are truly in fear. They're the ones who, if people wake up to this to the degree that we already are, and more will be waking up to it, they're so screwed. And that's where we are. That's why they're now saying, oh my God, this horrible thing's going to happen. It's going to be so intense. And they need you to look at it. They need you to get focused on it. They need you to get emotional about it, because that will help create it.
Yeah. It was either going to be a nuclear war or alien invasion. It was like one of the two. I was like, I think I even posted that on Facebook. I was like, who's ready for a nuclear war? And I was like, it's not going to happen, people. It's going to look like it, because they need the fear. They need the frequency of fear. But we hold the frequency of love in our hearts, and
there's
trusting.
so much technology that we're not told publicly about
huge,
that allows them.
Well, they're at least 50 years ahead of us. Like when they give us something, that means they've had it for at least 50 years or longer.
Yeah, I mean, I love this. We're going on a tangent. One of the other ones where I'm like, they already have that is, did you ever watch the TV show Parks and Rec? That show?
No, I've heard about it though.
It's like TV show. An NBC show. It was cute, but like looking back on it.
But yeah, with Chris Pratt. I remember Chris Pratt.
I like Chris Pratt, but so they introduce a social media company within that show called Grizzle or something. And everybody in the town is given devices, right? And it's very much kind of like where we're going. And all of these devices are like smart glass pads. So they're a piece of glass, just looks like a phone, looks like a piece of glass, and they're projecting up and off the glass, like looking at each other. You're like scrolling the air. You're not scrolling on the tablet, you're the air above it, and you're watching all the things move. And I'm like, they have that already. This is they're showing you something that's already exists.
Yeah, they show that in Iron Man as well.
Do they? Yeah.
Yeah. Marvel Comics for sure.
That holographic technology that totally already exists. So yeah, we're definitely spoon-fed things at a very slow rate. And the idea is like, part of it is to make sure that we're in check. But I mean, it's pretty obvious. We've seen what they're doing. And actually, it's funny, like in the beginning when I was like sharing this, I was really excited to like kind of expose it. Now I'm like, we already know. We know what they're doing and what they're up to. Our whole job really is to focus on, again, the healing. So now that we've kind of talked about the trauma, what's happening in the body, how it looks, why we hold on to things longer than even we want to. But again, it feels like we're addicted to that frequency. And we understand how it would serve to keep us in a lower frequency and why we be put there. So now let's shift over to, okay, let's talk about healing this. And you did mention, actually, Michelle gave us a lot of tips about how we could heal it. But I really feel like, okay, let's say we're getting caught up. Let's say we're watching television or we're watching social media and we're seeing all the ways they're trying to scare us next. And they've got plenty of stuff that they're going to throw at us.
Yeah.
We're watching it and we're starting to get triggered. So like, talk me through how you would guide someone to step out of that and move back into a more grounded, anchored, and expanded frequency.
Well, I was just doing that when I was shopping the other day and seeing these people in masks, and I started to get angry. And so I just started it's your breath. It's the present moment, and your breath is acknowledging it. Don't try to fix it again. Okay. It's like for me, and I'm just going, Michelle, this is a normal human feeling. It's okay. I understand why you're angry. There's nothing to fix about this frequency. There's nothing wrong or bad about it. Just breathe into it. And I just started breathing really deeply, like big, deep breaths, because again, when we're in stress or we're in the trauma, we're shallow breathing. Another thing I love to do is put my hands on my heart, because when you're connecting to your heart, you're getting out of your head. You're getting out of the story. You're getting into the body. And so you're breathing into the frequency and just letting it be there. There's nothing to fix. And I even tell myself, this is a normal human feeling. It's okay that you're feeling this way. Now, if the frequency, that was a frequency about trauma collectively with the story that's been going on for 2 years. If it's a frequency that something that you're still angry about with someone, or it's a memory of something that happened a long time ago, you know, so a trauma from when you were younger, the best thing you can do about that is to actually acknowledge that little part of that little girl, or I say little girl if you're a man, a little boy. So I breathe into that, and I go, and I breathe into that, and I start to acknowledge that little girl. And I'm like, okay, Michelle, I know that you're feeling, and anger has been a story, a pattern of mine from when my parents got divorced when I was 15, you know, different stories. So what another part of this is to actually acknowledge that little person who had to go through that trauma that created the emotional pattern, and send that child compassion and understanding, because only you really know what they went through. And and so then there's actually a process that we do that actually goes back the timeline, where you can actually see that experience, and you're not trying to fix it, you're not making it wrong or bad, no matter how hard it is, no matter how horrible it was. And, you know, trying not to make rape, you know, bad or wrong, or trying to fix the feeling, that takes something. And it takes something in your soul that goes, for whatever reason, my soul chose this experience in this human existence, because nothing can really harm you. There's nothing that can harm you. There's nothing that can harm your soul. It is the infinite light of love, of oneness, of harmony, of peace. But the only way that you can experience forgiveness for that person is through maybe something that's horrible like that. And you also, there is also a thing called karma, so you don't know why that happened. But can you practice, maybe just try a little bit with just being in that feeling of terror, of I can't believe this is happening to me, or whatever story you create about it, and you just let it be without trying to fix it. Can you explore what that would feel like if I'm just in that feeling and I'm not trying to fix it anymore or blame the other person? Actually, even that blaming part, even that blaming feeling isn't right or wrong or bad. Can you be with the fact that you want to blame that person for what they did to you? And can you let that be okay, that frequency is in the body, of a frequency of anger toward that person? There's nothing wrong with this frequency. It's just a frequency. And you breathe into that. That's all of a sudden you're going to start to have peace. You're going to start to integrate it. And that's where we're headed. You know, you're seeing something for bringing it up to present time, you're seeing something on the news about nuclear war. Can you be with the feeling of fear, of worry, without making it wrong, and try to fix it and going into a story about it? Oh, they're wanting to trigger fear inside of me, and I'm feeling fearful, breathing into that, and now I'm feeling anger for these people that trying to trigger fear inside of me. Can I be with that? Now I have peace. And that's where we're headed. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love what you're saying. And it just reminds me of, you know, we got to get okay with being uncomfortable, because to feel these things and to not judge it. Wow. I mean, it takes practice. It does.
It takes practice.
It takes practice. And even when you find yourself in judgment, just let that go too. Like, okay, I'm judging.
Yeah. Everything, every part of it. And that's but that's where power comes in. That's where power comes in. Because when you actually can be with any emotion without trying to fix it or make it wrong or bad, and you just realize it's just a frequency, it's just energy, it doesn't mean anything about me, it doesn't mean anything about the other person, it's just a frequency in my body from the experience, and you breathe into it, oh my gosh, like you feel like, oh my gosh, I can do anything. Like I'm not a slave anymore. You know, people go through these patterns and these loops over and over again of feeling like a victim, of feeling like they're not powerful. But you start to integrate these lower frequencies, all of a sudden, like manifestation, things come to me, like crazy stuff happens. And
Yeah.
it's because of this integration. It's because I've been practicing this, and now the frequencies that I have are higher, and I can actually feel into the space, which is just frequency. We walk through frequency. I'm sitting in frequency. This is why when you sage a room or a person, it feels lighter. You just change the frequency.
Absolutely.
So that's all.
Absolutely.
But
I mean, these are such good points. And, you're reminding me of something I remember reading, Brene Brown book, and I think it was Men, Women, and Worthiness. But I remember she was talking about shame. Like, she does a lot of work around identifying and understanding shame and looking at it through different lenses. And a technique that she gave around that's very similar to what you're talking about was when she would feel shame coming up, rather than trying to suppress it or ignore it or deny it or anything like that, all she would say is shame, 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 shame. You just say it, because by saying it, you're acknowledging it, you're allowing it to be present with you.
I love that. I love
right?
that.
And you're not trying to say, I don't feel shame, or even my shame is okay. You're just
Or
saying,
fix it.
or fix it. You're just saying shame, shame, shame. And what it does is there's, I wish I could remember the details, but it literally switches over something neurologically in your brain. You're switching over.
That's awesome.
You're probably switching out of fight or flight, which is your need to, like, freeze, run, or hide, or fight, into more conscious awareness. I am in shame. I'm shame. Shame is right here, right now. It's shame, 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 right?
Yeah.
And I've tried.
So I
that.
have to head in about a half an hour. I have another call, another interview. Yeah. And I'd love to do the prayer if that's, unless you had another question.
No, I'd love to do that with you. So
okay.
This is so good. I hope everyone, that as you're listening to it, you find it helpful. I hope it helps you have steps to deal with things as they come up. And even, if you're listening to this and if anything's triggering you, use this as an opportunity to try that technique and move through this, because our intention coming here is to share information on healing and helping support you being okay with healing trauma. So, and with that in mind, I'm going to hand it back to Michelle to guide us through this prayer meditation as we wrap up this podcast.
Oh, wonderful. So just go ahead and, if you're not driving, uncross your feet, uncross your hands. And if you are driving, do keep your eyes open. And take just a deep breath into this human body with this heart that has been beating since before you were born. Your heart is the first organ that was created in your mother's womb. It is connected to infinite intelligence. This frequency of your body right now in this present moment, just acknowledge what it is. What is the feeling in your body? Don't make it wrong. There's nothing to fix. There's nothing wrong or bad or good or right. It's just an energy. So coming to this present moment right here and now, acknowledge the feeling you're having in your body. And breathe into this human body that has allowed you to have so many experiences, that houses all of your memories ever since you were born, that houses the frequency of your lineage. And breathe into this human body, acknowledging whatever feeling you're having. And take a deep breath again. You're all the way in, and feel the emotional frequency of that, whatever feeling you're having, expand through the limbs, through your legs and your arms and your hands and your fingers and your toes. With your breath, breathe all the way down your diaphragm, all the way into your root chakra, and feeling the frequency and the energy that you're holding in your body expand even more until it goes outside of your body, outside into the field of infinite possibilities that is always around you, that you walk through this field every day. And this field of infinite possibilities lives in every single cell of your body. So now in this present moment, right here, right now, find inside of your body the part of you that feels the frequency of peace and of harmony and of unity and of absolute freedom. Find inside of you those frequencies those higher frequencies of love, of hope, of absolute peace and unity and freedom and safety for all people and all children. We all want our families to be safe. We all want children to be safe. We all want peace for the planet and for people and animals and all sentient beings. So find within your body the frequency of peace, of harmony, of unity, of freedom, and of love for the sun rises and the sun sets, of loves for the ocean, the tides that are moving in the ocean and the dolphins that are swimming. And feel inside of your body that peace and that harmony, and know that as you feel the frequency of harmony, of unity, of love, peace, starts to emanate out into the field that surrounds your body, goes to all four walls, and this frequency starts to go out like the wave of an ocean, out down your street, through your neighborhoods, through your town, wrapping around people and plants and animals and trees and cars. And this frequency goes out like a wave, just touching anybody and everybody in its midst. As it goes through your state or your province, and it starts to wrap around the planet, touching us right now here, me in Hawaii, and Therese, just wrapping around the globe. And this frequency of peace and of harmony and of unity and of love and of freedom for all people. And now see the planet pulsating with one heartbeat of light. This one heartbeat is unified humanity, that our hearts are beating together as one heartbeat, sending a signal out into the galactic field that this planet is free, that this planet is at peace, that all sentient beings are in harmony together, unified with each other, and in harmony with the land, with Mother Earth, with Mother Gaia. And we send this frequency out, and it touches anybody who's feeling alone right now, anybody who's feeling in fear. It touches them right here, right now, in this present moment, no matter what time you're watching or listening to this podcast. And we now come back to this present moment, feeling this body, this amazing miracle that's walking, with these arms that have hugged our family and our friends, and these hands that have cooked meals after meals after meals and wrapped presents for people that we love, and these legs that have walked miles and miles in our lifetime, and this amazing heart that is connected to infinite source of love. When we put our hands on our heart, we send this body compassion and understanding for all it's experienced. For only you really know what you've gone through, and you're sending this love and compassion and understanding to this body right now. And we give so much gratitude to our higher self, saying, yes, I'll go. I'll go at that time, at this time in history. I'll be the light that's needed to shine so that the frequency of the planet can easily rise. I'll be a helper, a light worker that guides the way. I have the courage, and I know that I'm always taken care of. When they say you and what army, the army of light beings that is numerous, beyond numbers, that is supporting us here and now in this present moment. That is the army that is behind us every step of the way, with each step we take toward love, toward peace, unity, harmony, and standing up for not what we know is easy, but what we know is right. And soon what is right becomes what is easy. We breathe into this present moment, knowing as we go throughout our day, being exactly who we are. There's nothing to fix about us. There's nothing to change. The frequency of absolute understanding, surrendering to whatever vibration is in the body, and trusting the journey of this human being, this human journey, trusting in it right here, right now. We come into this present moment knowing we are stronger together, unified. And we are stronger now in this present moment of love, harmony, peace, unity. Breathing into this human body. It's a miracle walking. Wiggle your toes and your fingers. Feeling the temperature that's around you and the temperature on the tip of your nose. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes.
That felt good. Thank you so much
Yes,
for
my
guiding
pleasure.
us through that. I love sending that energy out and wrapping it around people. I do that a lot, and I love the way that feels when we do that. Um,
Yeah.
so Michelle, how can people connect with you and hear more from you?
Blossom Inner Wellness. If they go to Blossom Inner Wellness, BLOSSOM, Blossom Inner, INNER, Wellness, WELLNESS, blossominnerwellness.com. You can sign up for a free gift that is a video series I filmed here on the Big Island of Hawaii over at the Paliaku Peace Garden. And it's a video series that helps you, gives you tips on how to have more self-confidence and more peace in your life. Yeah, so you can join me there.
Perfect. And you also have a YouTube channel too.
A
Can you
Blossom
share
Inner
that with
Wellness
us?
YouTube channel. Yeah, Blossom Inner
Awesome.
Wellness YouTube channel as well. And I do a lot of tips on health and on truth. So
Beautiful.
it's a good channel to subscribe to.
Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. Thank you for talking about trauma and helping people come into more acceptance around it so that they can heal and integrate and experience more of their light in this world.
Mm.
Your work is very appreciated. And I just want to thank you again for being on the podcast today.
Mahalo, Therese. I totally appreciate your light as well, because you're definitely one of the light workers that is helping make the world a better place. So thank you for the work you do.
Thank you. All right, everyone. I hope that you love this episode. Remember, you can reach out with comments. If you are hearing this on Anchor, you can actually send a voice message and I will share any messages that you have with Michelle. And of course, you can also, you're probably going to see this on YouTube as well, which is exciting. So if you're seeing it there, drop comments and I will share that with Michelle as well. So until next time, everyone, stay magical.
Aloha.